Alright, so we're going to try something new here. This is the reading for chapter 25 of Ecce Romani. The title is First Morning in Rome. I'm going to read line by line in Latin, and I'm going to ask you questions about the Latin, and then I'm going to kind of guide you through it, line by line, how we might translate it. So I expect that during this video you'll need to pause quite a bit. Because I'm going to ask you questions, I'm going to ask you to pause and consider them, write down what you think is the answer, and then we'll go over the answer. So, to start, you should have your book open to page 227. And I'm going to start off with line 1. Iam dies erat. Magnus erat clamor in urbe. Servi ad forum magno tumultu onera ferebat. Alright, so that was the first line plus a little bit the verb carried over. I want you to consider the first sentence. What is the case of dies? And what is the tense of erat? Consider those two things. Pause the video. I hope you came up with dies is nominative and erat is imperfect. Now it was day. Great there was clamor in the city. So clamor, noise, Magnus, they agree. Clamor, Magnus, even though they're separated by erat. So there was a great clamor, a great commotion in the city. Servi, nominative plural, slaves to the forum, they were carrying, ferebant, also imperfect, they were carrying onera, burdens, loads, to the forum with a great tumult, a great uproar. Moving on to line undique clamor et strepitus, sed nihil clamores, nihil strepitus ad Marcum pervenet. So here are the questions for line 2. What is the case and number of strepitus and strepitus? Those are both located in line 2. Case and number. Pause the video for just 1 second. You should have come up with strepitus is in the nominative, just as clamor is in the nominative, and strepitus is in the genitive. And strepitus is actually in a construction known as the partitive genitive. Nihil clamores is genitive, nihil strepitus is genitive, nothing of clamor, nothing of noise. That's no clamor, no noise. The translation would be undique, everywhere. There was clamor and noise, but nothing of clamor, nothing of noise to Marcus came through. No noise reached Marcus. No shouting reached Marcus. That being the preferred translation of clamor, clamorous, shouting. Moving on to line 3. In lecto stertebat, nam defesus erat, sextus quoque in lecto manebat, sed dormire non poterat. Consider the tense of stertebat, and that's all I want you to consider for this line. So pause the video and consider that. If you came up with the tense being imperfect, you are correct. Notice the BA here as the indicator of the imperfect. For a translation, in lecto, in bed, he was snoring, stertebat. For he was tired, dephasus. Sextus, also in bed, was staying, manebat. But he was not able, non poterat, to sleep, dormire. So note that up until this point, all of our verbs have been in the imperfect. The tense of the story is in the past, at least the imperfect, incompleted action. We'll pay attention to the verbs, tenses, as we progress and as we get some direct dialogue. So I guess we're starting off at around line 4.5, going through about line 5.5. Clamoribus et strepitu excitatus, iam cogitabat de omnibus rebus quas Titus eri naraverat. Consider the case of strepitu. Consider the tense of cogitabat, and consider the case of rebus. Pause for a second. You should have come to the fact that strepitu was ablative, singular. Cogitabat is once again imperfect, and rebus is ablative plural. Ablative singular. So here is our translation. We're talking about Sextus here, who was not able to sleep. Excited, excitatus, by the clamor, the shouting, and the noise. So the clamoribus and et strepitu. That's the ablative of means. By means of the shouting and by means of the noise. Excited. Now, he was thinking, imperfect, about all the things that Titus had related yesterday. So yesterday they had walked through Rome. He was thinking de omnibus rebus, of all the things, quas, which Titus yesterday had narrated or had related. So what is the tense of this word, naraverat? Pause for just a second and figure that out. You should have come up with that this is the pluperfect tense. So note that everything prior had been in the imperfect. Now he was thinking of all the things which Titus had related, had told, had narrated, I suppose if you want to be that literal, yesterday. So this is past the past. This is prior to the imperfect, which is why here it's pluperfect. Quid odie videbimus? Cornelius ne nos in forum ducet? Ego certe forum et curiam et senatores videre volo. What do you notice about this sentence? Pause for a second and see if you can figure out these several sentences. What's significant about them? You might have noted that they are in quotations. This is direct speech. Close those quotes. So you can expect to see a change in person. You can expect to see a change in verb tense in these sentences here that are inside the direct quotes. So consider videbimus and consider ducet as well for just a moment. You should have figured out videbimus, this has the bi there, it is future tense. Same with ducet, and you'll remember that the third and fourth conjugations, duco, ducere, being a member of the third conjugation, act differently in the future. They don't have the bi there, but rather they change to an e. So they're both future. So Sextus here is thinking about the future. What will we see today? Will Cornelius, us in the forum, lead? Cornelius, us in the forum, will lead. Will Cornelius lead us to the forum? I certainly want volo, videre, to see the forum, and the curia, which is the Senate House, and the senators. Moving on to line 7, this is the beginning of a new paragraph, which might also be a contextual clue that we're going to see different tenses. Interea Eucleides, qui prima luce exierat, iam domum redierat. Going to stop there. Consider the tense of exierat, and consider the case of domum. You should have come to the conclusion that exierat is pluperfect and that domum is in the accusative. Even the fourth and fifth declensions have that handy M for the accusative singular endings. So we do see a slightly different tense here. Translation: meanwhile, Eucleides, who had departed at first light, prima luce, or at dawn, now had returned to home. Now had returned home. Moving on. Statim cubiculum puerorum pettivit, et pueri inquit, cur nondum surrexticis. Consider here the tense of pettivit and the tense of surrexticis. Pause the video. You should have come up with pettivit is perfect, and surrexticis is also perfect. So why the shift in tense? Our prior sentences in this paragraph had been in the pluperfect. Eucleides had exited the house at first light. He had returned to the house. Now we see the perfect tense. At once, he sought pettivit, the room, cubiculum, of the boys, puerorum. Et heo pueri. Hey boys, he said, why are you not yet up? Why have you not yet risen? So let's continue with the direct speech of Euclides. Ab hinc 2 horas ego surrexi, quod novum librum emere volebam. Let's stop there. For a translation, he continues to speak in the perfect tense. I rose, surrexi, ego surrexi, 2 horas, 2 hours ago, because I wished, volebam, I was wishing, emere, to buy, novum librum, a new book. Continuing with the same sentence, in argilitum mane descendi ad tabernam quandam ubi in postibus nomina multorum poetarum videre postes. Catullus, Flaccus. So stopping there with the direct speech of Euclides, consider the case of multorum poetarum. So you can probably identify that that is a genitive plural. That's our nice friendly ending, the aurum and the autumn. Question here is, why is multorum, which is modifying poetarum, O-R-U-M, and this is A-R-U-M? Why do their endings not agree? Think about that. The answer that you might have come up with is that poetarum is a masculine noun. So even though it has this typical feminine ending, this first declension ending, aurum, the ending of aurum is a masculine second declension ending. And this is true. Poeta is masculine. It's a masculine first declension noun, which we don't see many. We have agricola as another example, nauta, which means sailor. Those are all examples of masculine first declension nouns, which are rare. And a common theme that they have, poet, sailor, farmer, they're occupations. So that is the pattern with masculine first declension. And that explains why their endings don't agree. So for a translation, he said, I got up 2 hours ago because I wanted to buy a new book. I went down to the Argiletum, which is going to be the marketplace, in the morning to a certain shop, tabernam quandam, where, ubi, in postibus, where on the posts you are able, potes videre, to see, videre, the names, nomina, multorum, poetarum. You're able to see the names of many poets on the doorposts. Think of this as signs in the window telling you what authors a particular bookshop is carrying. And he mentions two of these, Catullus and Flaccus. And now he is interrupted, and we exit his direct speech, continuing on. At pueri celeriter interpellaverunt, quod Euclides, ut bene sciebant, semper aliquid novi docere volebat. Quid in viis vidisti. So please consider the tenses of interpellaverunt and sciebant. You should have come up with interpellaverunt is perfect and sciebant is imperfect. So let's consider the relation of those tenses as we look at a translation. But at the boys, pueri, quickly, celeriter, interrupted, interpelluerunt, they interrupted him, complete action in the past. Because Eucleides, as, ut, well, bene, sciebant, as they knew well, continuously they knew, imperfect. Always, volebat, wished, was wishing, docere, to teach them something new, aliquid novi. So they ask him, quid in viis vidisti, what did you see, perfect, in the streets? And now back to Eucleides. Eucleides, nihil inquit, nisi miserum hominem lapidibus oppressum. Eucleides, nothing, he said, except a miserum homine, a miserable man, oppressum, oppressed, or in this case we can say crushed, lapidibus, by stones. The story has just taken a dark turn. Continuing with line 14 into 15, boves lapides quadratos in plastro trahebant ad novum aedificium quad Caesar prope domum aureum conficit. To translate, oxen boves were pulling trahebat, square stones, that's lapides quadratos, in a wagon, in plaustro, ad novum aedificium, to a new building. The new building, the aedificium quad, which Caesar, he is building, conficit, prope domum aureum, near the golden house in the forum. Illud aedificium, that building, est ingens, is giant, amphitheatrum, is a giant amphitheater, et mox princeps ludos ibi fecient. And soon the emperor, princeps, he will hold feciet, that's future, ludos ibi, games there. Si boni pueri, fueristis, fortasse ad ludos ibitis. If, good boys, you will be, perhaps to the games you will go. So that concludes the reading of First Morning in Rome.